Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming for Season 59, 5 vs 5 Grand Arena Championship. This is the preview episode, and I'm so very happy to be joined by most of my regular co-hosts, Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal is incommunicado, but hopefully he'll join us at some point in the show. If not, we'll make do. But, gentlemen, good to have you here. We've got a few things to dive in on. Let's get right into the list because I know time is precious today.
But before we do, I just want to say real quick because it's kind of timely. Uh, Thoughts and prayers go out to people in North and South Carolina and now Florida as they're under the new hurricane. So may our podcast be something that you can distract yourself from maybe some stuff going on in your real life.
Sure, and honestly, I have friends and family that live in Florida that are living in the path of this hurricane that's coming. And what is it, Milton? And some of them are actually choosing to stay. Please be better than my friends and family. Please choose life. Please get out of there. Okay.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of family members. One of them is going to be staying with me because they flew out yesterday afternoon. Um, yeah, yeah, be better. I also have a cousin who decided to stay, and their argument was, "Well, we're only like 95% chance to be hit by the storm." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right."
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
sorry.
agree though. Wish everybody all the best down there.
Yes.
Anyways, TJ, how you doing? Excited for the
Uh,
new season? Revved
no,
up?
I'm just I'm gonna be in TW mods, so too many changes I was trying to do. I was trying to get too crazy,
Party,
so
party.
I'll be in. Oh, dude, I'm at the top, and we were just talking about it. So I am begrudgingly looking forward to. By that I mean not at all for what I'm gonna face. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll
Mm-hmm.
be all right.
Mm-hmm. Sasha Aisha, sir, how you doing?
Yeah, doing well. I feel like I'm waking up from a 1 week swugga nap.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a GC down week, I go through the motions on TV and other stuff, but mostly I'm sort of away from the game. So kind of excited for this conversation, kind of reawaken a little bit of strategy, a little bit of thinking, and yeah, prep for the upcoming week. Doing well.
All right, well, how appropriate then that we jump into our first topic. As always, guys, significant character remods, major relics applied. Any project units you've really tuned up here over the break week? I have myself tuned up Malikos, a little more offense, a little more health. I would say my Master Qui-Gon project is in progress for the crit damage modding. I'm trying to do that in the long term and committing to that. So we'll see, because that looks like it's a really nasty customer. And then, yeah, just rebalancing some new mods. I picked up a few great 20 plus speed health primaries with strong offense on them. Really been targeting them in the last, I don't know, 2 months. So having a maybe 2 or 3 reasonable ones come out in the last week, nice. How about you guys? Anybody, feel free to jump in, because not all of us will have a ton to say on this one. Or nobody, it's fine. It's cool.
I made absolutely no improvements to my roster this week
You
whatsoever.
are shameful. You get out. How TJ? How do you say it? Dagger, you're out. TJ, you're in.
That's right. Dagger's
Yeah.
out. Fuck Dagger. As we
All
always
right.
say, hello.
There we go.
I did
Right.
pick up a couple new mods. I did make a couple of datacrons necessary for specific counters.
Is that anything you
So
want to
I
talk
did, like,
about? Because that's going to be pretty much the next question. If we want to kind of lump that in, this is the last week that you can be farming set 17 datacrons out of Conquest.
Sure.
And are there any crons that you feel comfortable discussing that people might be overlooking that they should consider
Well,
picking up?
I mean, if you haven't picked up your Plo, that one's good. I'm hoping Ethcock does something, but make sure you have like 3 to 4 Jedi stun crons. You're gonna find use for those. No, the ones I went back and worked on were the previous set.
Yeah.
16,
Because-
really?
Yeah, with new
Yeah.
information comes
He
new
got in
work.
trouble. What he did is he got in trouble. So he got nanny
You
boo booed in
hush
the
your
guild.
fucking face.
He got told off, and then he got lucky and rolled 2. So I'm just calling out. I'm trying to tell him like motherfucker, dude. I'm telling him like that. Like Dagger didn't have his stuff, and he got in trouble. The leaders came
Can't
out
be
and
doing that.
not being a bitch.
Can't be
In my
slacking
defense,
like
I was
that,
making it
Dagger.
work.
Shameful.
In my defense, I was making it work, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. It technically should, but
Not
he
work
was
enough
still
anyway.
not.
Yeah.
He was not within Chromium standards. Put it like that.
Yeah, I
So,
had stat targets I wasn't hitting, and I had to reroll to get the right L3 on a couple of them. So
yeah.
Shameful. Disgraceful.
technically correct is the best kind of correct. TJ's right.
Well, how about how about you, TJ? Anything from you?
So the one thing that caught me, and this is why it took so long, is all the things that are swapping around. Fatal's talked about it really well about crit damage, right? And then everything else that looks like for CG. The one that's catching me right now, honestly, like going through my template and everything else I would do, is potency and tenacity. Man, I'm getting slammed for so many. And I went through and looked at all my characters. There are so many that I had that have a potency cross or that are tying in that have a check now for this. The Great Mother's team, or there's all these pieces where it's like that's important right now, where the data crown might not be sufficing. So I got stopped at least 7 to 10 times on my template trying to go through, and I started looking at my characters, and I have a lot. So it's like that's where I'm falling hurt on right now is potency and tenacity. I'm starting to feel the burn,
Man,
which is
if only there
surprising.
was someone who had poked you about that several months ago about how you were a little light on your tenacity mods.
And what do you think your remedy is?
And I built in daily to do
Yeah,
it.
I know.
Well, what's your remedy, TJ? When you find yourself, what can you tell the folks that you're doing to remedy this type of shortage?
If you're doing that, you really need to look at okay. So I went through my characters and it went through. It's like, okay, I can afford alleviating some potency here. It doesn't need to be a cross. I can just put a number on it and see if I can hit it, right?
Well, let me ask you my question a little better. What I'm saying is you found now that you've been short on potency and tenacity sets. If not just, maybe it just crosses, maybe also sets. How are you going about farming to fill up those holes ASAP? What's your go-to?
Honestly, right now it's making life negotiations on characters, making the flips, and then it's just a hard hunt on all potency, any potency. Tenacity, I'm okay. It was just like I said, that one, but potency cross has really flexed on me. So realistically, it's deals with God. It's making the choices of this character is just going to have to go without because this is far more important than this character. And then there's just some other pieces like Jin was one where it's like absolutely must have a potency cross on Jin. Jin needs that to make it play good. So it's like, all right, well, let me look at this other character. And that's my biggest, if you're asking for feedback, understanding the kit and then just making those big choices that it's not going to work here. I can afford to flex and maybe just put on 2 potency set on this character to adjust some. But there's some other characters where it's absolutely pivotal and it must happen no matter what.
Right. When you're chasing that potency cross, for example, TJ, are you doing that in like going through the refreshing mods shop, or are you farming the potency mod node? Which is your approach?
For this one, it's kind of a little bit of both. Obviously, I'm a thrifty whale, right? Like everybody's gonna have more than me here, so it's keeping within budget. So yeah, 5 to 6 refreshes isn't bad on your setup, but it's also when you're stopping in bulk, it's also just buying in the potency setup, right? So going for the potency mods in general, because if you can't hit that 35 or whatever it needs to be, at least you can do is try to get a set and put some sets together that are going to be adequate enough where it may not be as strenuous a setup. They can just take whatever as long as you put a potency set on them.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Tass, but you should probably unmute when you want to tell everybody what's up.
That would help. Or
no, he can keep talking.
Either way.
Yeah, that's also a good one.
Yeah,
we could think about it.
But yeah, like most of the work I've been putting, like a lot of us, I will be honest, at least the 4 of us here, when it comes to like putting relics on characters, we don't have a whole lot more relics to put on characters.
Yeah,
So-
that's true. And I'm sorry, I realized I was on mute a second there, but I was wanting to say to Sasha, did you have any other preparations you had done for this week?
I really didn't. If anything, I'm coming in, I'd say, woefully underprepared with one exception. I had, Merrick, just the day we're recording, just rolled out, a few hours, maybe 4 hours, I think, before 3 hours, maybe before Jacklock. And I clicked through on one of those, like 10 roll packs and had some nice RNG and was able to get them close enough to 7 that rather than wait a week, I just did a couple more. So I have Merrick going in at R8 for this week. And,
that's hot.
yeah, so that's it'll be fun. If anything, I'm probably the least deserving of this exciting new toy because I haven't really formulated cool theories, and I threw on some modding on him, like mostly offensive oriented. I had to make a decision whether it was probably more valuable to have him with Inquisitors or with Seer and have speed considered on that, and I lean slightly towards Inquisitors. But yeah, so Merrick was really the investment that I made, not out of grand plans, but out of favorable RNG.
All right, dig
I
that.
a question for you, Sasha. Are you walking like just around your neighborhood, a lake, like?
Yeah, so I'm around the neighborhood,
Okay.
just taking the opportunity to get out. Apologize for the background noise, but I'm
No.
trying to steer
There's no
clear of.
background noise. I just recognize that timbre in the voice when you're going for a walk because I have that.
Yeah, exactly, man. You got it.
Yeah, so I was just curious if you were like nature walking or hiking or something, as opposed to just a generic walk around the neighborhood. But yeah, all good, dude. Wasn't trying to call
Yeah,
you out.
out in the hills in California here, so it's a nice day actually. I
Oh,
wish our friends in the Carolinas and Florida had this weather at the moment.
Yeah.
yeah,
Geez, have to rub it
yeah.
in, man. Wow. All right.
I live in Minnesota, and I also have really nice weather here too for this time of year. We're in like the 60s, which may sound cold to some of you, but like for October in Minnesota, that's really nice.
All right. Next topic, guys. Great Mothers team. How you might use them. Obviously defense proved to be
Defense
very
bottom
interesting.
front door, you're wrong. No, sorry.
Defense bottom front or you're wrong, says
Yeah,
Dagger. Okay,
yeah.
very good. Very good. But any
It has like
interesting
3 counts.
compositions that you're thinking about for defense then?
There's so much to unpack there. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's my question. Damn it. That's why I'm taking credit for it
If you're
because it's
poor and you don't have Morgan, you can put Zombie there.
Okay, let's say you had all the options on the table. What are you thinking about flexing around? Maybe trying to see what you might draw for
Well,
it.
for that we have to start somewhere else, and that somewhere else is what do you want to do with Enoch? And then the next question is what do you want to do with DTMG? Right? Because you're seeing what pieces you can free up. Right? So there's other questions that go in. I might be putting Enoch, I don't plan to put Enoch with my DTMG this season. I plan to move him around, maybe do something interesting with him. So that means my DTMG team really only needs Gideon plus his Kron. Now he won't loop the TM anymore, but he will AoE every turn. So I think you don't need the full power of that team. And since you won't be using Night Trooper Kron, I think it makes sense to move Night Trooper, to not use Night Trooper there. Now the problem becomes is that like I guess what I'm saying is there's a world where you can put the 2 new Night Troopers on that team if you want, if you make room for it. The question really becomes so I guess the AI puts Blessed on Morgan versus JMK. Don't quote me on that. That's what I heard from someone who did some testing.
Morgan versus who, you mean?
Like Spirit.
Spirit, okay. You said
So it depends on who you
JMK.
want to get blessed on what your comp is. So to kind of distill it down, there's a lot of questions you have to ask yourself before you decide what your Great Mother's team is going to be. Number one, you have do you have Enoch, and will you use him somewhere? And then where are you going to use your DTMG, and what are you going to use him for? And where are you going to use your Gideon and your Gideon Kron?
Sure. Well, let's say that you were willing to have Enoch freed for however you were thinking to apply here in the Great Mothers. What's the purpose there? What are you looking to jam up?
Oh, nothing specifically. It's mostly just figuring out if you can justify putting Night Trooper and DTP on your Great Mother team.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I said. There's a bunch of questions that go into what is, because I don't know how consistent GTMG is going to be versus things like Jabba. I mean, it'll probably still be Jabba pretty consistently, but I don't know if the Leia punch up is going to work, because there were some Leia punch up theories with the Gideon loop.
Yeah.
Right now, the Gideon loop is fixed. Like, that brings the ceiling down.
Yeah. Yeah, and DTMG, we know for the last, I don't know, season or so, hasn't been terribly impressive on defense. Good as a Malgus draw, but, you know, still a pretty good counter for Malgus. So I can see you being willing to part that out for an enhanced Night Sisters team. I think the core four for me would be the two new troopers, the zombie troopers, Morgan and Mother, the Great Mothers. I would think that Spirit is the default choice. Acolyte is an interesting option. I don't know if I like it better than Spirit.
I would not. I would not. So unless you want Acolyte to get blessed versus SOK, I would not put her on the team.
Okay. You're saying Acolyte has a higher AI priority than Morgan to get it?
Spirit and Acolyte do, is my understanding, right?
Ah, so it will take attackers. Okay. So I guess that's why some might use Initiate then. Initiate might have a lower AI priority.
Initiate also counterattacks, which throws a wrinkle into the Slacker plan when you get all weakened stuff.
Okay, sure. I can see that. All right.
Well, I'm saying that's the other reason they use her is because she's not a high blessed priority, and she counterattacks. So as the Slacker team kills themselves, her counterattacks might throw a wrinkle in.
I can see that. Sure.
But yeah, then we go down to the rabbit hole of who has Initiate relic up. I know Sasha does from back in the day.
It's the very last trickle of profits from the Initiate Datacron ages ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess this ties in for me for the last question, but as far as any other cron that I had prepared, I had the zombie cron that we talked about in the third week video. I made sure I got myself one of those, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to use that, but I think
Dr. Zombie's really stupid good when Zombie takes a bunch of turns and strips all their turn meter.
All right, that's fair. I like that. But
because Night Sisters aren't really a team now. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Tells and Night Sister team is probably just not a real team until this Great Mothers team. Because if you're not going to put the Night Troopers there, then the Night Sister Troopers there, then the flip side of that is you put Marin on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I feel like Night Sisters is still a thing against whatever Finn, Zori, a couple other things, right?
I'm just saying I don't think the team is really going to exist in a meaningful way for the majority of people.
Sure.
And even if it does exist, it's probably just the Jabba counter.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest, for most people.
Still pretty good.
If you need Night Sisters to do something, if you need Night Sisters to do something to your opponent's board, we are probably not the podcast for you.
I wish I were really good at that counter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not good at that counter either, so I'm not going to pretend like I am proficient either. That's where we miss Fatal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do have R9 Marin, though, so maybe I can figure that out this month.
Yeah, that's a nice move. I don't regret it. I haven't really had that get tested too hard, I'll be honest with you, but, that's the point of it is I'm meta protected, right? If I feel safe in a meta that was reasonably taxing for it, good. But yeah, as far as any offensive use of the Great Mothers team, I don't think this is the week for me, guys. This is the week to put it on defense, try it with a couple different compositions, see what you get from that. And then if you see that opponents in week 2, had their game just on lock for week 1 for whatever was thrown at them, I don't know. Maybe you can flex it on offense because, of course, they'd have to plan for it being on your back wall. There might be some value in that, but I don't think so in week 1. What say you?
To the small number of people who don't have the Great Mother's level 9, and I say small number because I just assume that most people listening to us have it. Maybe try to next level your opponent and save it for offense because I think that team punches up really high, even with just a generic Night Sister Cron right now.
And well, how high is really high without it then? With it, I believe you. I don't know that there's anything I wouldn't try.
I mean, Jabalea. I'm pretty sure you can get Jabalea.
Okay, dig that. Yeah, just off of the 6. Okay.
Yeah, you can ignore taunt and you can just zap somebody's prot.
Yeah, all right. I'm into that. Okay, how about...
I'll let TJ and Sasha weigh in on all this stuff. They've been pretty silent for the whole thing.
Well, no, I think we've... Unless I missed somebody, I think we got everybody's take on Great Mother's stuff. But you guys got anything else you want to throw in on top?
No, I mean the only thing I'll add is it's kind of a shame with this Datacron set 17 and the Night Sister 6, which is the long text one is really intriguing. The some really compelling stats on it that we really can't get a second Night Sister squad really kicking because they've got some cool characters in there. And I wonder if maybe not at the most competitive level, but like I still think in some pretty competitive GAC matches, you can see a really tuned Night Sister squad with like high survivability, Talzin and under its Talzin lead and a good zombie cron could still be pretty formidable. It's one of those. I wish I could make it work. I just think of like every matchup I have, and they'll chew it up. But it's just it's too bad because I feel like it's a faction that should be having its moment in the sun, and I guess it's getting it with just the one elevated new character. But the OG Night Sisters feel like they're missing out on a party that was half meant for them.
Fair, that's fair.
It would be really nice if we could get the Java counter to work, Great Mothers, and Daka Zombie someplace else. That would be vindication for this Night Sister Cron meta. And like Sasha said, it would make you feel a whole lot better if we could get like essentially 3 Cron uses out of this set.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, guys, how about Gideon? So, as of now, they just did that nerf on Gideon. And what exactly is the quick notes on that?
He doesn't loop TM anymore, but he does his AoE days every turn.
Okay. So, yeah, every time he gets a turn, he can do the AoE days, but he isn't going to be able to take consecutive turns like that. Okay,
yeah, and Dagger quickly, when he's doing that AoE days, is that a massive damage?
Yes, it's still
AoE
massive damage.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So I mean that's
it's still strong. Yeah, but he isn't going to be able to just back to back. Yeah.
Yeah. He just won't. You just won't sit there like what did Fatal have as the F? You're just like F. Right? Just because you have the keyboard bindings. Yeah. Or Taz did it. He's just like
I did it.
Click,
yeah. Well, observe the skill. Click. Yeah. That's right. I demonstrated the extreme skill of that DTMG Gideon counter versus Jabba last season. It was a good time.
Yeah. Now you actually have to make use of Gideon's full kit.
So the question is, how does this change how you're using them? Okay, so you're not doing something crazy like a Moff Gideon solo versus a full Jabba team now that that's fixed. So maybe you're not doing something that was outrageous on its face, but are you thinking to apply him differently? Is he still pretty much with your DTMG? Or, is he might be seeing some service with Lord Vader? What do you got in mind?
Well, that's kind of what I was saying when you have to make your conversation. Like, so many of these conversations between the Night Sisters and the Imperial Remnants are just, like, interchangeable because of the 2 new troopers being 2 of, like, the 3 best options for both teams. So, if you're not putting Gideon with your DTMG, I think that you're going to be forced to put, like, some number of the new characters with him. How many, I don't know. But if you want to put, like, your Gideon with, like, your Lord Vader, right? Because he's very good at, like, proccing... can you imagine his AoE days just proccing Maul for massive damage, and then Maul just, like, and you're dead. Right?
It would be unfun. It would be unfun.
Yeah. So I think that there's some applications for Gideon on other teams, the same way there are some applications for uh, Enoch on other teams. So I personally am just gonna like keep the team together because I just have enough teams. So I'm gonna be doing Enoch and Gideon with Scout and +1. That's gonna be my DTMG team, and that
Okay,
should still
I
be
like that.
Jabba. And that should still be Jabba. The so we'll see.
Okay. All right, I can respect that. Yeah, probably Death is the one I would take for that last
Yeah,
one.
that's probably the most reasonable one to take.
Yeah. All right.
I think there are some cases where you might want Storm, but we'll see.
Yeah, I could see that as well. All right, fair, fair. How about you guys? Gideon plans, hot Gideon plans. Anything not, novel uses, not
No,
overpowered uses.
no. Other than like, I would expect to keep him on offense, just as even when he was OP before this fix, it was still seemed to be vulnerable to Malgus that more and more people are keeping. So
I agree with
nothing
that.
novel, but just not making that fundamental switch back to a particularly vulnerable defensive spot. How about you, TJ?
I'll give a couple that might be fun. I built one for it anyway. I know we talked about the DCs, but you can still put dark with that, and I think that's a pretty impressive Imperial Trooper team. If you want to think about Terminator looping, think about giving him, and you can't do it right now, right? It's not set up that way, but nothing but buffs that are going out, and you're giving that to a team that loves buffs. So the minute they start going, the Imperial Troopers could railroad a lot of stuff. I'm not going to discount. I think Dagger's right. I think the ceiling is Jabba. Feels like it's pretty accurate, but I still think it would be fun with the buffs on 3 and the buffs with the alert on 6, putting that under a Veer's lead and letting Old School go to town. Also, there's a Dark Trooper Cron. You're doing nothing but gaining buffs, so it's like I could see that playing out, and that's a big punch up. Other one I could still see working too. It's even though it's on the difference, Gibbe can still do some pretty big damage trying to pull it back that way. So that would be another fun one to do because who cares about what's happening with the Crons? Massive damage from getting is nice, and then wherever it's not hitting, you also have Padme and team just pushing punches.
I see it.
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility between Enoch and Gideon.
I do agree. I think Dagger killed it with this point on what negotiations you're having with yourself on how your teams are going to flex around, be it Night Sisters and Imperial Remnant, just because the pieces are interchangeable right now.
Okay. All right, guys. Here's a real good one, and I'm gonna change this question ever so slightly from how it's written here. But yeah, about
How dare
Luthen,
you?
and the application on defense. Why? We saw that setting it down in the last 3 versus 3 season with Saw plus Luthen plus a variety of third characters with the set 16 support cron seemed to be the most powerful version of that defense. Why aren't you considering doing some version of Saw Luthen on defense? Why wouldn't you be doing that here in week 1? Because I'm
There's a
tempted
lot
to just
more-
keep doing that.
Well, first off, there's probably going to be a lot more counters to it in 5v5 because in 3v3, one of the problems you run into is it's hard to bring multiple attackers plus a tank, multiple tanks, right? Like you just don't have enough bodies. And the reason why that team worked is predominantly because if you remember when Shock, Echo, Arc was a team because they had a 4th character, people struggled. And then you remember Geos when they first came out in 3v3, they had a 4th character, so people struggled. I think one of the main struggles for this in 3v3 is 3 versus 4 is way harder than 5 versus 6. So the reason why I won't is because the Mon Mothma team has such a ridiculously high ceiling. Just an absurdly high ceiling that is basically everything. So it really boils down to, will Saw be better than putting a GL on defense? And I think the answer to that is no. So I'd rather have the GL down than Saw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's very much my assessment as well. I've had just a bit of fun, not so much in the last week. When the Rogue One Crons came out, just playing around with a Luthen on a Mon Mothma squad and finding it surprisingly easy to get and it's not just the turn meter dependent. Even with Hoth. whatever Hoth, whatever the attacker is that generates turn meter on his
Scout.
basic. Scout, thank you.
Yeah,
Even with Hoth Scout, against JMKs where turn meter is, completely irrelevant. You can't gain turn meter, just melting through them. So like
That
that
is
ceiling
impressive.
it's pretty remarkable. I mean, granted, with the defensive stats that are out there on Crons, you're going to want a good amount of armor pen, but that squad
So are we
hits so hard.
talking? Are we talking at minimum Mon Mothma, Luthen, Powcron, Hoth Rebel Scout? Like, what are we looking at here? What's the power
Yeah,
Mon Mothma team?
yeah. So the one that I've used, like I said, it's been a couple of weeks, but when it first came out, I just found that it was cutting through everything like butter. Was with Mothma, Luthen, it had Pow. Um, Kyle Katarn ended up being particularly valuable because he ramps damage so effectively. And then the I think I had even like Hoth Scout is like the in that as well. So it's just shockingly effective.
Yeah, so
Just it and speed up and everything. Sorry, go ahead.
there are 7 characters you want to dial in for this team: Mon Mothma, Pow, Scout, Luthen, Kyle, Krex, and Kara. So against JMK, you want to drop either. Right now, it'll be Scout because Pow is a Kron. But right now, you drop Scout for like Kara, because you want the extra damage, right? Um, and also like just like her utility. She can't remove turn meter, obviously. But then against Jabba, you want Krex. You want that AoE days because they gain reactive turn meter whenever you gain turn meter. So you would drop Kyle for Krex in that fight.
Okay, I can see that. Good
Um,
calls. Good calls. So
yeah, but
if it's taking on
Yeah.
JMK and it's taking on Jabba, is there anything that they fear?
Yeah, so that was
Emily.
one thing I was going to mention. I mean, a Leia, a strong Leia squad with Krex in it, just because the
Yeah,
AOE
And
days
when you say
can be a big
strong, you
challenge.
mean set 16 long text tank? Like, what are we dealing with?
Yes, long text tank.
Okay.
Although I don't know. I mean, I've only gotten the chance to test it maybe 4 or 5 times in Squad Arena, but the correct AOE days can cause issues. Like basically, you're in a little bit of a race against the clock on Leia's ultimate, and that was something that caused like some issues with Mon Mothma, but it was just surprisingly effective against everything else, including like JMK. Like I said, it's just funny. You're so accustomed to running anything against JMK and going, "Oh no, I'm going to lose somebody right off the gate because there's a cat leap." It's a Mon Mothma squad, and everybody she kills is coming back, and it doesn't bother you. So days is a much bigger issue than an instant defeat.
All
yeah.
right.
The two biggest wrinkles I've found are high defense and Krex on Leia. I'm not sure that the level 6 or 9 matters as much. I could be wrong there. I'm just like my sample size is maybe double what Sasha's is, right? So I'm not going to pretend like I have a ton of experience. And then Lord Vader, I know TJ and I have talked about this. The Gar ISC thing with Maul is really, really hard to come back from if you're not Relic 8-ish. Because if you lose 2 people off the bat, like you're just kind of done. Because the AoE days from Lord Vader paired with 2 of your people being dead, like you just can't come back from that, really. Um, Outside of that, Lord, like they're I don't even know if there's a Jabba comp that basically the biggest enemy to Mon Mothma is the clock, which is why I think that you should if you're planning to take this team, I really, really recommend you taking against teams where you have relic parity. And one of the reasons why Tess is even bringing up this question is, in my mind, is because people don't want to invest the R8s in the Mon Mothma team because every relic you put in benefits everyone because they all share stats. So Saw
It's
is the poor
true.
man's version of where you can stick all those characters. Luthen R5 doesn't matter, put it under Saw.
But
Kyle
I do
R5,
think,
R5 doesn't matter, put it
I
under
do
Saw.
think you would agree, though, that while that value is absolutely overlooked from Mon Mothma's leadership, this is something where you're having the opportunity in week 1 to aggressively playtest this and see if you fail, and if it's for want of, bulk of stats. Did you just barely not kill somebody just before they stabilized? Because you would have had them if you had, another extra 1,000 offense on that character shared out between everything. Yeah, it's I definitely did that a couple seasons back, but they were something I had overlooked for a long time too. Was sinking Relicate on Mon Mothma herself, and anybody that I might be basically
Yeah.
running under her. So yeah, good
So
point there.
really quick, so I know Tass might make a mod video on this at some point, but just a quick rundown of kind of how you'd want to do it. You want Mon Mothma in like a fast-ish, preferably offense set with Tenacity Cross and Tenacity Small set with some Tenacity there. You can put her in a speed set if you can't get her like up to like after her unique bonus, you want her around 300 speed, so about 250, 240 to 250 base. You want your POW and your Scout both in offense sets with Tenacity Small sets and prot primaries with Tenacity Crosses. You want this team to be as bulky as possible for versus Leia and Jabba. Sorry, Leia and Lord Vader specifically. And then Kyle is all damage, and Luthen is I mod him personally for all damage. That you can do the fatal thing and mod him for bulk, which is also fine. But you really want Pow and Scout and Kara, and you want those guys to just be when they're on the team, they are just stat stick.
Yep.
You want to share as much prot, as much tenacity, as much offense as you can.
Thank you for sharing. All right, guys. Last one on this.
Really quick. TJ didn't answer that question.
The only reason I brought it up, and I agree, I think Dagger nails it on that, because I remember getting my just self just bopped in, which is why we talked about it with the LV. But I think we have a higher understanding. The ceiling is tough, man, to say with Luthen, but I also still think there might be some relevance to, depending on how you want to load it. If you wanted to throw like a full support team and just let your guy do the work and what it might do on the SAW team, it's a tough sell because you only have so many slots, right? And I think that's what we run out of, and that's what we run into the problem. But I also know that Dagger is an MM truther and has been an MM truther since that's been cool, right? So this is before Luthen. So for a lot of us more average guys, I think Luthen has places that he can go, and it's a lot of areas. I do like the Leia with the Krex, but having more room to just lock your person out, and maybe like that's a top front team you have to work with, it might still catch somebody off guard. And I still think that there's more to play with. And now we actually have a 5-character team for the Luthen Krong. I'm still going to say that support is a higher calling. But there's some work to do with that Luthen Krong that can also be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people who will put Luthen on defense. And we talked about this when Luthen came out, too. Luthen is SAW is one of those teams where people absolutely want it to work. He has such an interesting hit and kind of a cool thing where he comes out of the gate super fast, has a ton of damage, and people are like, yeah, I want this to work. And yet it just, unless he has like a Chirrut Kron or a support Kron, like he just needs to be propped up. And people are hoping that Luthen can be that permanent prop, if you will. And a lot of people are in the same boat as us where, the flip side of this argument we're making is, well, what if I don't need another thing that beats Jabba if I need to R8 everything? And it's like, well, that's reasonable because your R5 Kyle still works on SAW just fine. Yeah, well, maybe not R5, but R7 Kyle. And like, you get what I'm trying to make. Like, SAW is a really good home for some of these characters if you don't want to put the investment into the Mon Mothma team, both relics and mod-wise. But I promise you, if you put the effort in, the payoff is there, and it's not Kron dependent. Because I was doing this without Luthen. I was doing some of this stuff without Luthen before Luthen, and then when Luthen came out, I was just doing this with generic armor pen and like defense crons, just to see if it still worked in arena, and it still worked in arena. And
So I call Dagger an MM truther. That's like on some of the characters I just absolutely love. Like I've been a Spirit truther. I loved Spirit before, but Dagger has been touting the horns or going off the horns on Mon Mothma forever. Before this was cool and before Luthen, he was over here Mon Mothma.
Back to the BG days. There's like a meme
Yeah.
in VDO, which is Sasha's guild, from when I used to be there in their TW room, where when it was like, what do we use? I'm like, Mon Mothma. He's like, no one has their shit modded. Like this, like TJ and Ash used to be in that warm with me. They remember. Like that was a fun time. What do we use here? I'm like, Mon Mothma. Like, shut up. Maybe yours.
It's true.
Or it's like the sauna thing. Remember, go to memory lane here. Master Fizzle and his. We should try sauna versus this. Convinced a bunch of people, that's included. They equipped that Omi.
Ancient times now, for sure. Man,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's so rare does that Omi ever get used. It's a shame. All right, guys. Thoughts on ETH? Okay, I know one of the easy ones was going to be with Queen Amidala. I don't know that I expect to see people doing the gas thing, the gas with ETH, like a lot of people were doing last 3 versus 3 season, because that was easily contained by Starkiller.
Also, gas not countering in 5v5 is so much worse than him not countering in 3v3.
I think that's a threes team. If I had to be honest, like,
Yeah.
you're out of limited resources, right? So it feels like the Dagger Spawn and the Saw team. It's a very limited, like it's niche, it's cute, right? It can catch people off guard, and it did. It caught me one time, but it was because I didn't have 2 other characters supporting it to finish it off. And agreed. No countering gas is.
It's a huge loss, yeah. So just to be on focus then, how are you guys thinking about applying your ETH here in week 1?
I mean, Qui-Gon. Like, I know it's such a boring answer, but like JML and JMK don't care about ETH Koth.
Right.
JML especially doesn't care about ETH Koth because they're not Galactic Republic Jedi. JMK has Cat, and Plo is just better on.
Has
teams.
Plo, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly just rather put it with Qui-Gon because you get Cam, and if you still have your team modded to be super fast or whatever, like maybe it does something more.
That's a huge value buy. ETH there to free up Cam for Queen.
This would be with Cam because if you take Cam off the team is worse. Like,
okay.
I would not swap ETH. If I took Cam off the team, I wouldn't set.
Qui-Gon.
He's got a taunt, right? So the cool thing that makes it niche is the fact that he has that taunt, and taunt is good on the Qui-Gon team. So Dagger's point is definitely relevant, depending on what your setup is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can put Beck there as the final one, so you have the match assist.
Yep.
So if you just put your Beck in a speed set and you just have your turn order, do the old turn order of everyone after all the adjustments is like, what is it, like 380, 385, and then you just go in order, bing, 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 mass assist.
Yep.
And then your Punter is ETH Koth. That might do something. But if you don't but that's the thing. Like, if you don't want to Cam is such another interesting one because he has so many good places to go. And again,
I did have to pause there for just a second, but I'm sorry. We were just talking here about ETH. So, any other notes on that? You're dropping probably your Kit Fisto or your Ayla to have ETH there, so it's not much of a loss from your core 3. Is it enabling any other compositions? Any other flexibility created by that? Or, it's just ETH just doesn't seem like it's better anywhere else?
It feels like you've only got a couple of big places. I think Queen Team and Qui-Gon are the most like jackknifey or like, Galactic Republic type setups. Because you can't really do it under a Padme team. So it's like, it feels like Qui-Gon is going to be the big one, or it's going to be Queen.
And if
Queen
is better with the support Tron and C-3PO anyways.
All right, you guys talked over each other there real quick. What was that?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Dagger.
Oh, I was just agreeing with TJ, and I said, and if you're putting ETH Koth on the Queen Amidala team, it's better with the support Kron and C-3PO anyways.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, fair enough. Good stuff.
So it just goes back to really quick. It just goes back to the same frustration I had with ETH Koth and 3s, where it's like, this reads so good, and why are you so fucking useless?
Yeah, it's just because you need the right Galactic Republic setup to tie into the 9. But that's right.
Otherwise, that shit's like a really good. That's really good. If it says either just Galactic, if it says just GR or just Jedi, it's really, really good, and I can think of a couple more places for it.
And I would 100% agree with that. There's the way to play it out, but when you start funneling out, it's like, well, who's left? That's cool.
All right. Guys, that's the end of our topic list. Before we close up, anything interesting that you guys wanted to discuss real quick? Last call before we close out.
I'm going to throw the theory out, and I'm still going to stand by this. So if I'm right, it's going to be awesome. If I'm not, it's no harm, no foul. They delayed Merrick or Maroc or whatever the name is going to be to today. So at the time of the recording, it's been out for a couple hours. People like Sasha, who's a lucky bastard, and I wish him nothing but the best and hope he rots in hell for getting good polls. As we do for all friends. For all friends, we do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I stand by my statement. I'm wondering, and we Dagger said it before, and I think, do we see old boy next week on the poll? Because timing wise, it could happen. They generally do it around the 15th or middle of the month, right? So middle of the month.
So your question is, does Merak being late disrupt the original predictions for Balin's release, or is he in fact delayed by that much?
I would question, do we still see him during our question and five? So like next week, will we see him unlocked in time for the fives setup? Because the timing still works, that it'll be out for 7 days. It'll be there. It's the perfect time to release it. So do we see Balin for fives?
Haven't we seen it before where we're having a situation where a super powered unit comes out for that third week of fives? You don't usually get it before then. You get to taste the power for just 1 week and end of season.
I think, isn't that Starkiller?
They did it with Gungan.
As I say, that Starkiller, I can think of a couple others where they put it out
right.
and it was
it wouldn't
like
be unheard of.
Week 3.
But doesn't that seem like a little quick?
Character.
I think we're looking at the 24th or 31st for the release date.
Yeah. All right. So certainly not a week or two away. Little more than that.
Yeah, because the thing is like they want to wait till the marquee's over, and because the marquee's running late, that means that the earliest it would be is the 17th, and I don't think that they would bring it out quite that quick. Just historically speaking. Mm-hmm. So my guess is the 24th is the earliest they would drop it. They generally drop these like the Thursdays or whatever, right? Because this is a regular legendary. Or have they announced what type of event this is?
This is not a legendary. This is whatchamacallit. This is
it's not an epic confrontation that's 48 hours.
No, it's not epic confrontation. It's the other one, like Starkiller. You need to have all your characters, so it's that type of build.
Oh, so it's going straight to Journey Guide then?
I don't.
It's going straight to Journey Guide. I would guess the 24th.
It's not epic confrontation and maybe Journey Guide, but it's definitely something, and it's not like legendary. So it's whatever I think the Starkiller setup was, is I believe this one, because we have the same amount of characters except for the one. We have the one that's pre-built, right? It's not just 4 marquees.
Yeah, if this is Journey Guided, I expect it. Generally, Journey Guided characters come out a week to 10 days earlier than normal characters. Just because they go permanently into Journey Guide and you can get them at your own pace. They generally wait an extra week for rotational characters. But I do think that Balin comes out either the week before or the same week Merrick goes to shipments.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm looking forward to Balin because I've been doing a pretty good job about preparing a mix of speed, offense, and health mods for the last couple of months in anticipation of all of these characters. So by far and large, I'm doing pretty good. Got a little child.
Not even having seen it, it's just a character that I so enjoyed in that series that like I'm going to be pretty much willing to pluck mods off anybody else in my roster to support. Right. I mean, man, that character was super cool.
I think he was universally loved. He was I think he was quoted out as being one of the best new characters, like Lucas, right? Has really ever come out with, which was so hard to see what happened take place, right? But he was his whole setup and his whole build and everything about like the lore and how he did his stance and the fight that all of it, all the intricacies were so well thought out that I expect he's going to be a pretty big moneymaker, which is why I bring up the whole point. FOMO and anything that comes out of you want it, and then the GAC and just draining the rest of your resources in true CG fashion.
Mm-hmm.
They still haven't announced what his Omicrons are for either.
Nope. They have not done any of that, but it's also the idea that we get to actually play with the full mercenary setup. Because until he comes out, there's no other lead enacting that Soldier of Fortune and what those benefits get to do. So it's not only this setup, it's enacting all of the Soldier of Fortune, because then now you get all these other characters. You get all of the cows. You get all of the other pieces that have this and what those benefits are and how does it change the team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, let's get ready to wrap up here. Sasha, I know that you have the most urgent business going on, so let's have you sound off first. What are your final thoughts wrapping up, getting ready here to start the first week of this season?
I think this, as I look forward on it, I think this is going to be a pretty grand farewell to Set 16 Datacrons. In that, we had last season threes. You just have way more teams in play, way more battles, and so you draw more broadly on your Datacron set. So we all spent a decent amount of time with our Set 17. Set 16 is so strong, and fives shrinks the board, or at least reduces the number of battles we have. So I think it's going to be like I think even maybe before we started recording, folks were talking a little about, or maybe Dagger even said it when we were recording, that some of the attention leading up to this week was still going back to Set 16 Datacrons. So I think this is going to be very much the Set 16 dominated fond farewell, as long as you don't get stuck on a Set 17 Great Mother's Cron, because that'll end your day right away. But that's kind of the sentiment. And then, kind of related to that, prospectively, I'm very much curious to see what we hear about Set 18. Is it going to be a kind of attacker, tank, support, healer breakdown on level 6 the way Set 16 was? Are we going to return to the steady normalcy of factions instead for that? So I'm kind of curious to see going forward. But long story short, I think this is the grand farewell for Set 16 dominating the board.
Yeah, completely agree. 16's been incredible. All right, sir. Appreciate you. Dagger, how
Take care,
about
guys.
you? Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, Sasha. Anything else you had to say?
Nope, that's it. Thanks so much, guys.
All right. Take care, man. All right, Dagger, how about you? Your final thoughts. What do you got for the people?
Man, it's an abbreviated show, so I actually have lots of thoughts. Because we are, as people watching this will see, or listening to this will see, that is much shorter than our normal in between. So I actually came with a lot more ammo to talk about. So
We'll knock it out.
okay. Do you want me to quick hits it, or do you want to actually dig in?
No, I mean we can go into it. I don't mind. I'm not that pressed. TJ, how much time you feel you got?
We're okay, man.
All right. Well, yeah, you got a few things to explore. I didn't know that. That's fair. Yeah, you didn't respond to any of the questions about the setup for today. So, what do you got?
As one of the people who was late. All right. So I guess one of the questions I had for us is, when it comes to trying to set up our defenses, Sasha touched on it. So just to go off what he was saying, with the set, I always get mixed up on the sets. With the support crons coming out, or leaving, I should say leaving, what do we think is going to replace some of those for next 5v5? And are we prioritizing using new datacrons to see what we can do on offense, or are we just going to stick with the old support works? Like Queen Amidala's support works. Why would I try a new cron? Like what are we thinking on some of that stuff?
Well, I mean, you're basically asking us to speculate on how we'll be handling not this current 5 versus 5 season that we're just starting, but the one after, based on a Set 18 who we have no detail on.
Well,
but I will say this. Set 16 added so much power that Set 18 needs to add not the same kind of power, but the same kind of significance of power, right? That's kind of what you're looking for Datacrons to do, right? It's supposed to enhance certain things, and the feeling of Set 16 leaving is going to be a pretty big loss of wind out of the sails. And it's not that I'm gonna be sad to see it go. It's been all right, but it's also been pretty crazy. So that being said, whatever's replacing it needs to offer a lot of strength because set 17 feels pretty muted by comparison, and it benefits far fewer factions than set
Well, let me
16's
rephrase-
level 6s did.
Let me rephrase the question because that wasn't quite what I was asking, or maybe I was what I intended to ask. Because I'll distill it down to a specific example. Master Qui-Gon has a level 9 Datacron. Because that Datacron will persist next season, is there any thoughts on us trying to use some of those Datacrons now? Or are we still defaulting back to using the support crons here and there? I know I sometimes run out of some of those crons, so I try to look for other ways to use stuff.
I would say that because we don't have any knowledge of how that cron would perform in 5 versus 5, I think that there is merit, especially in week 1, in testing it to see. But intuitively, we would think that the set 16 support would be the better choice, the nominally better choice. And I mean, as long as it's around, if there's some playtesting here in week 1 that reveals some, you can block out X, Y, or Z counter by using the set 17 Qui-Gon Cron instead of set 16. That is a worthy consideration for use within this season. But if something doesn't jump out from it, I think as far as winning your matches is concerned, I think set 16 is probably still going to be the better way to go. But this is the week to do the roll of the dice, to be clear.
DJ, a resident, try new shit out. What do you think?
On defense, tried and true remains the same. I can't see. I think it's cheeky having a 5-character stun team, but does that really take away from Pow literally deleting a whole team by himself? I don't think so. I think there's things you could probably do on offense to try to dumb out AI for some stun stuff or some things like that. But I mean, pick your team. I think Queen was a good call out, Dagger. You trying to call out the Queen team because it has a level 9, right? There's something there. It has something that's cute with the stun, with the Jedi, and you could just do like a full Jedi team. But even then, when we talked about Queen during the setup, it wasn't the Master Qui-Gon on the team. It was putting ETH on the team and having that little cheeky setup and what you could do with it. So tried and true still feels better. 16 is just not Swigo. It's Swigo 2.0. I think I've called it out multiple times because it's just so different than anything we've ever seen. And I'm personally going to miss 16. Not for any of the stuff that broke or whatever. It was just cool playing a different game for a little bit. And then 17 is bringing us right back into actual just playing the same. We're all playing the same stuff. But now we're stunning you if you stop, or we're doing some other things. And now you get alert, and that's cool. I mean, I think Sasha called it with the mothers. I think that's the one, right? But I just don't see where it beats out how good 16 is. It's just so strong.
Yep,
Yeah,
I agree.
Another one is, what are you guys planning to do with Shin? Because I think that she does slot into that as resident fulcrum, denier, right? I know you both like her.
Yeah, I do.
I find her relatively useless on the team, and I have her R9 and super kitted out.
Wow. Okay.
And she's still the first one to die every time.
Wow, you should
And
just.
Mine is R9.
She has not died. She's bulky enough to not die.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually slaps. So I've tried her out user. She actually does have slaps, and she does mess with the team. So Shin is definitely on the Seer team. How and where? I mean, you can't take out Cal, right? Cal is just if you're not having Cal with Rey, you have Cal with Seer.
Tank though, right? You're basically just dropping tank.
That's what I'm saying, right? It's like where do you put her? And
So
Shin just
essentially relegating to
natural.
offense only, then, though.
Well, I mean, what does not having a tank like?
It allows you to go straight after, Malicos. That's what it allows.
Yeah, but if you're like, I guess what I'm saying is, if your opponent's going to Gidme it, then that means that they don't have their Gideon somewhere else.
Okay.
Like, what counters does it open it up to that it wasn't already open to? Like Malgus already kind of beats it. Like what are you afraid of being cheap that's being used?
I'm afraid of the priority target being exposed off rip as a general matter.
Well, Crew's not going to be on the team regardless. So what is your substitute for that then?
Why wouldn't Crew be on the team if it were on defense?
I mean, you can have Crew on that team, or you can have a Great Mother Scout.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would use a different counter, but yeah.
Yeah. The point I'm trying to make is that the best Great Mother's counter that we have currently is Crew lead Slacker.
Mm-hmm.
So since Crew's not going to be on that team, even if you are setting it, what is your like? I guess.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to put. The answer is it wouldn't be on defense for me. Why would I put down a team who's predicated on, hey, I can keep all of my other teammates alive, like I can give them a second life if you don't bully me down first. Also, you can target me immediately at battle start. Thought you should know.
Yeah. But then the discussion point is less about Shin and more about we're just using Kier on offense this month, right?
If it's a tankless team, yeah, regardless of Shin, I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, that's a good distinction, though. I really appreciate that. So do we? What do we think of that? Do we think that raises the ceiling for the team at all? Having the extra attacker who's actually bulky and actually slaps pretty hard.
AOE physical damage is something I feel like I mean, if we're being honest here on this team, I'm open to being wrong because that 50% added offense is really slapping on that character. But I will say that it feels like a win harder on Seer. Like in the same way that I would also say that for the most part, so is Fulcrum. Could she be a better win harder? Yeah, AoE physical damage seems better than single target physical damage. I'll take that. There's also, cooldown increase. It depends on whether or not you've gone to the effort of putting her in any amount of potency, because basically just a potency cross and a little bit from secondaries has her comfortably up over 100%. So there's money out there, and certainly perhaps more than Fulcrum in a short fight, I would say. Because once that cooldown's down and then you're like spending a couple turns doing, you have the other special that does the assist call, and then you just basic a couple turns. So, there's less downtime in that sense for Fulcrum, but your benefit is having much more power up front, which I think has a pretty good synergy with Malikos.
So you answered the first part of my question. Now the second part of my question is, do you think the Seer team can punch up now you said win harder, win more? That was the point I was trying to make. Or the other part of that question is, do you think this team can now punch up to something like Jabba because they spawn with like the crit immunity? Do you think this team can punch into Leia now with the extra damage?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that type of testing. So with Jabba, that might be worth testing because you have. If that doesn't work, then you have some other relatively affordable ways of getting around Jabba. But if we're talking about in a live meta with set 16 long text tank down, I'm disinclined to play. I'm disinclined to play with it.
Okay. What about you, TJ?
I don't know. It's tough to say. I could see using the set 16, and this is where I would say, yes, I have my Fulcrum kitted out, but I also agree with Dagger. I love Fulcrum. She's awesome. She's cool. She has pizzazz. But being able to set up your dark side with a turn meter setup, and you have supports throwing out blasters, that's pretty compelling. And she's gaining turn meter on top of a turn meter level 3 feels also pretty damn convincing, because that will speed up your dark side on the line. There's pieces to the puzzle there that she actually has, and I really like it. She has a very well thought out kit. We don't get to see the full thing when it comes to her until we see Balin, right? And that's where I think we'll see how it's going to be. But I like her now. She has good damage. She can move a lot faster than people think or will give her credit for. And her slaps for AoE are also pretty damn convincing when you're watching it. And putting that with Malikos, also that's 2 on top of one another with this set right now, I really like what you can do. Punch up wise, obviously Ray's dead still. I think it's even more convincing that Ray's dead. You don't really put Fulcrum
Even with
on.
Nest,
Even with Nest, I feel like it's so much damage there.
Oh, I don't know, man. You remember that
Yeah.
long text, like just shutting shutting my shit down for sure.
There was still,
Last
but
fights.
you still look at with the current setup, it still had a pretty good win rate, and there's no coming back from it. So I think with her there as well, I think there's some play to give in.
I'd say if
really
it's
do.
not that long text, I'd say it's a slam dunk. But it sounds to me like you're saying the win rate was still good. Here's the thing: if
It's
memory,
okay. It
if
was
memory
okay.
serves, if memory serves, the time that she just crapped on my Malicos, it was basically I threw my rocks out, and then she took a bunch of turns and he fell over. There was no counterplay. There was nothing else to be done. There was no saving him, and I have to believe that if it was really smooth for a lot of other people, Ness just chose to not go after their Malicos.
well, no. So like the reason I asked that is because if memory serves, that shit was like 40%.
Yeah,
Right,
that particular matchup with that long text Nest,
Yeah,
I don't know that I'd take that on. If it's that revive Nest that that some folks like to really set, because it can potentially jam up your Star Killer if you're relying on finishing up Nest late in the fight. Like I can see the benefit to setting that, but if I'm seeing that down, I don't know that I'm doing Seer Malicos there.
yeah. I was more thinking about like Leia and Jabba and maybe even Lord Vader because of the true damage.
I just think she's gonna surprise. I think she's got more in store, and I guess call me a Shin truther. I really like what they did with her kid. Obviously, there's more to come, but I still think with the Seer team, I think it's got legs right now, and I think I'm probably so coping with it because of how good Set 16 is. Is probably where I would have to go because I could if you could also do this and think about it this way, going dark side attacker with this setup out of turn attacks also help her kid out. So that's where I think there's other pieces to the puzzle here that I like. And if I had to guess, coping mechanism, DC 16 makes this really, really good. And that's probably another piece to that setup.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we talked, you even said like Swugger 2.0 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's really funny because when the answer to whatever team is, can this punch up? It's like, well, let's see what the different versions of Set 16 can do.
That's probably what it is for me. Is why I think so strongly of it is the fact that like if you take an attacker setup and you set them all up for attacker, and then doing the out of turn attacks, that's really cool for Malicos. That's great for Shin because she loves that and what it gets to do. The call to assist is great. So I just like I just think there's something there that we get to play with, and it'll be fun to see. But I do agree that Fulcrum's out. That for this, Fulcrum is an amazing monster. She is the epitome of glass cannon and was built for this team even before this team was cool. But Shin has real strong damage and makes this team just, in my opinion, all that much more durable.
And then I guess the last one I kind of wanted to talk about, last team I wanted to talk about was what are we thinking about with Inquisitors? Inquisitors haven't gotten a whole lot of love from these two sets.
Oh, it's coming next set. I cannot see.
Yeah.
I don't
We're
know.
not doing
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hold on. Inquisitors for more of this year than not has been the beneficiary of some set, whether it was Empire, whether it was Inquisitorius. I'm not going to sit here and listen to you say that they have not been favored sons of 2024, sons and daughters.
So
That was not what I asked. I said right now with these two sets,
right,
they don't really have a Kron that speaks out like, "Hey, I'm an Inquisitor Kron."
Yeah.
So with that being the case, I'm not arguing with you. They've had Kron since their inception, basically until right now.
But CG has also favored the team, Taz, to be fair.
Yeah.
They have favored, and I think we've all agreed, right? But also, they've favored Saw. They have literally propped him up on a pedestal, either by Kron or by trying to give lifter of lifter of lifter, right? You have the Omi from from Drogon. You have the Omi from Krex that ties in. You have all of these pieces, so it's like they do love their Inquisitors as much as they do love their Saw team. And if you look, we have a couple Ufu. If Balin comes out as Ufu, which we don't know, he's a bruiser. He could be the whole thing there. Then Inquisitors are getting love. That's where it's coming. That, in my opinion, that's where it's going.
All right. I can see
That's
that.
why I'm asking, because they don't really beat JMK right now consistently.
No.
So, since that was like their claim to fame for a while, right? It was like, this is my stopgap JMK counter. Like, what are we planning to use them for? Like, are we just back to like killing Trench? Like, what are we doing?
I still think they have a good punch, man. I think they're like DTMG. DTMG obviously has the Kron, but I think they have a good punch up value. But agreed, it's not JMK right now. JMK with
versus Leia as well. Even with R2 Drogon, I've struggled versus Leia.
Yeah, and I think it's fair. And doing the death mark is cool, and things are there. I think you make a good call out, Dagger, that their ceiling is pretty low right now, and probably the lowest has been in a while because they've had so many DCs in one way or another.
They're going to be they're going to be an incredibly effective offensive solution for something like 60 to 63, something like that.
It's not a defensive team. You're not like, aha, I caught you with my Inquisitors. It's like, oh, you said Inquisitors. Why would you do that? That is not part of the 11. That would be, in my opinion, because they die pretty easy right now, and even easier, in my opinion, because there's no real standout. When there's just so many better teams with Krons, that just makes the thing. But it still punches up, in my opinion. Like, it would be the same thing as Gungans probably have more of a place because now you're in the full 5. We talked about it at one point with set 16, and now actually having some supports with some attackers. I think Gungans are going to see a good flex, but I agree with that.
Gungans are probably back to bottom front week 1.
Yeah, they have a really good punch out right now, right? Because now we get the full team, we get the full kit. That's a scary proposition of what they get to do with some good supports because they do have really good supports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So is that just kind of the world we live in, where we're just expecting this to be like a CLS level? We're expecting this to be what CLS was a year ago.
I think exactly what I thought. You literally plucked that from my head because what popped in my head was CLS.
Right,
CLS is just
first.
It's just easy dumb. It's just stupid doo-doo dumb easy, right? What the comp's going to be, and Deathmark is still very compelling. So its punch up it has a lot of places. If you try to dispel my stuff, I'm going to kill you. So its punch up value is just very strong, and there's some good tank stuff there. It's just nothing you're putting on. I put Malgus. Malgus with the grit and the revive sits before Inquisitors. But can Inquisitors punch up? Oh yeah. I think it's got good punch up. Is it to where we want it to be? No. Hopes and dreams dashed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder. I know in 3s I used Inquisitors to beat what do you call them? Gungans once. I wonder if that works in 5. That might. It won't. I'm not going to go as far as say it's budget, but that might be a reasonable place to use them to free up.
Dig this. That shit worked against the Nascron when Nascron was around, and the Inquisitor's Cron was around at the same time. What are the odds that I think you're right? You could pull it off with like a set 16 healer Cron, because as what I found in the last season, man, is it really nice to have Seven Sister come back.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I think you got something.
And she gets cooldown reduction, so I can see
it. It's not just set 16 healer. It also needs to have a good chunk of defense on it. Like you're compensating for quite a bit by trying to replace the loss of that Inquisitorius level 6 from whatever that was, set 15. Yeah. So defense.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm just trying to spitball to like where we're going to be pivoting our teams to, because like Gungans have a couple of cheaper counters, but like, man, if this is consistent, then it means you don't have to allocate something else.
Yeah, I can see it.
Because I remember there was a couple times where I begrudgingly used Bane because I had to.
Yeah.
Right. Like, there were just some times where I used Leia once because I just like needed the power through. And this was, of course, the Jar Jar Kron, so Gungans at their peak. So, man, also the Gungans feel like one of those teams that's going to get a lot of love, similar to Saw, because the team on offense is just the randomness makes it good against certain teams and just horrible against other teams on offense.
I do think it sits at a buck of its own, and I do think that they put a lot of love into it, so I can't not see it being something along those lines.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very solid defense team. Didn't get a Kron for a very long time. But yeah, and then after that, all I was gonna do after that was TJ touched on it, and is it going to be mercenary Krons and Ufu Krons, just Ufu Krons, just mercenary Krons? Like, do we think I think it's very. Oh, I guess the other thing is, do we think Merrick adds anything to the Inquisitor faction?
We talked about it. Okay, so here's my thing, right? And I was talking to him about this, and we've done it before. Call me crazy, but his TM game is pretty cool, right? The setup and making it basically like an EP level. He's going to keep going and spinning it. My problem with removing the eighth brother is that's a lot of debuffs you're pulling off the team to make it go. My crazy call out is we've done it before, and I'm going to get shot down. I'm sure it's not going to be the case, but if you're trying to TM loop, essentially what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to loop around and get him going, and you're making it to push back, and that maybe make GI do something. Is seventh the one who sits out to allow eighth to debuff, and you want to make sure you're not. You need fifth because of that clearing, right? You need that mass clear on buffs. I understand seventh is such a huge piece of it, but at one point in the early game, seventh was able to sit out. And are you just going for high damage octane? Go.
That's actually really interesting because you can have a really solid
right,
all AOE team basically.
Right? Do you see what I'm saying? Right? Because you're doing nothing but spamming TM because all of the people you have there are applying debuffs or doing something else. And it's disruption to stop the turns, and Merrick is just going while we're doing this. And that's my thought, because I love seventh. I think seventh is one of the coolest and one of the most frustrating because AI, it's very smart and it's very quick to keep your team alive. But if you're on offense, whatever it's doing, Merrick has a lot of cool ideas built into what he's trying to do for that team. And that's where it was, even to me, I get the Soldier of Fortune is cool and all that, but it feels like the home is with the Inquisitors, depending on what you're trying to do.
You think that throws enough of a wrinkle to put it on defense?
I don't know how you don't keep seventh there. You and I both know, Dag. We've all
maybe instead of eighth. What I'm saying is just in general. Is there can you drop eighth maybe for that? Maybe
that's historically eighth's the one that's been given out because he's bringing the least uniquely to the team. Debuffs on an AoE damage isn't even unique to the team. So, he's another source of armor shred, right? I feel like he's the default one to get dropped because, say what you will, if you're doing a really successful offense with your Inquisitors, and you're not really needing seventh for the survivability, then you can absolutely vouch for all of her assist damage, and there's something to be said for being able to have that third on tap late in the fight to get the perfection for banners.
I can't hate on the response. That's why I said it. It's a hot take for what I was looking at and thinking, but it's all in theory right now until we see it. And then obviously, if we get a DC for Merrick, that's another game changer because there's no reason to not. And it could be, like Dagger said, it could be Mercenary, not Ufu, because Mercenary has a huge field of play. It's like the Ufu setup, and that they gave tons of people this tag. And so there's absolutely merit to that. It could be going that way. And then now Merrick is on the Reva team. And to Dagger's point, Inquisitors are back, right? So that's all thought that could be. But that's why, like I said, hot take is 7th going out, and now you have more debuffs, and now you're trying to set up the loop. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Yep. All right, Dagger. Last thought. Summarize yourself.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be an interesting month, especially for me. It's gonna be fun. Talking to a lot of people about this, and yeah. I look forward to. I look forward to our week 1 podcast.
All right. And TJ, how about you, sir? Last of the rotation here today, but never last in our hearts. Your final thoughts for the folks at home.
Dagger's still a punk ass, but we say it with love.
There we go.
The
every
final
day.
thought, honestly, I'm surprised we went this long, realistically, right? There was just not a lot. 16 is amazing. We all know it. We're walking in with 16 in our hearts. So if you're talking about in our hearts, set 16. We all love it. It's going to be what we're going to – and then Great Mothers,
Your
right?
fucking self.
I know, but it really is. It's set 16 and Great Mothers. Let's just be fair.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
11 but that's what it is, right? So I am interested to see what week 1 brings to wrinkle the super comps, if this is fair. I think there's going to be this piece there. I think Ray with Nest, 100%, we're going right back to that. But yeah, I am optimistic to see some fun things, even though I'm in bad modding, in my opinion. I think that's where I'll leave that.
Shameful. All right. Well, for my part here, yeah, I'm kind of entering with trepidation because, like I saw at the end of the last 3 vs. 3 season, a mature set 16 and 17 means that there's high defense on many of the top opponents' Datacron. So I have to think carefully about how not to make a mess of myself here in week 1. I feel like you probably have about 2 drops in this first week. 2 to 3 drops. Probably for me more like 2. Before you're starting to worry about pinching banners. So do your testing often, aggressively, early this week, and give yourself a strong understanding for the rest of the season. That's my tip. All right, guys. Wrapping up here, yeah, if you want to tune into the show live for my streams, I'm on twitch.tv/Tassinix. Of course, if you're used to catching the Plotting and Scheming podcast on my YouTube, then you already know about the Tassinix YouTube gaming channel. But, of course, on that channel, we've got more than just this show. A bunch of stuff you might be interested in. Of course, I upload my VODs from Twitch with chapters added for easy browsing. Also have my mod guide videos covering, characters and factions that you, my viewers and patrons, have requested. So just moving on through those. Glad you guys like them so much. And, gosh, am I missing anything? No, I think that's it. Mod guide videos, Plotting and Scheming. My show. Oh, yeah, the Datacron set videos, of course, that I make with Aesop Rock, one of the very top players in the game. The live videos are on the outgoing set 16 and set 17. I'll be getting with him here in a couple weeks here to make that shiny new set 18 video. But that's all there on the YouTube channel. Check that out. If you like anything you're seeing there, by the way, please do give it a like. Hit subscribe on the channel to see more. Really appreciate that. And, of course, this podcast is also over on YouTube Podcasts, Spotify, and for every episode, I do include the RSS feed link in the comments. So if you use Apple Podcasts or any other off-the-beat platform for your podcast listening, just plug that link in there and you'll be able to follow the show. Let's see. Aside from that, if you've enjoyed what you're watching and you want to support the stream, I do have a Cash App that you guys asked I make one, so it's $Tassinix, that's out there. And if you want to join my community, get something back, help raise your intelligence gathering game, you can check out my Patreon. Let's see if I remember to flip the screen. No, I didn't do that. Let me set it up correctly first. All right, there we go. Check out patreon.com/Tassinix for any upwardly mobile Grand Arena player. There is something of interest there to you. $5 a month gets you into the Tass House at the VIP access level, where you get early access to the Plotting and Scheming podcast. That comes out usually on Fridays for the general audience. My patrons usually are getting it Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, within hours of us recording, depending on how cooperative YouTube feels like being. Also, early access to the Datacron set reviews, and of course, dedicated text and voice chat in Discord, where you can usually find me lurking if you want to come hang out, pick my brain, whatever. But thank you so much to Andrew, Arj, Brock Thudsteel, Deadpool Kyle 28, JJ's Productions Twitch, Jobin4527, Johnny B. Ottawa, Miasmal, Ray's Malbus, Renee Bebe, Sam Vimes, Squed, Stark Strategy Gamer, Sweens14, White Wolf, and Zoltre. Moving up to VIP Access Plus, this is $10 a month, but now you've got a bundle to my Patreon and to OmegaBot Patreon. So if you watch my streams on Twitch at the start, I usually have a report pulled on my opponent through OmegaBot, where I get a really powerful, at-a-glance sense of what they're about, offensively, defensively. Saves, more than a half hour, closer off to an hour, off of my scout, just using that tool. Can't say enough good about it. Thank you to Stryker and Desh Sotnikam for taking that offer. And at VIP Access Premium, that is the Double Bot bundle, so patron access to me, to OmegaBot, and to Hot Utils, which is the #1 tool for your mass mod management, your loadouts, just easily being able to switch from your TB to TW to Grand Arena to raid mods with just a couple clicks and nothing lost. A whole bunch of other cool functionality for TW and a little bit for Grand Arena as well. But thank you so much to Duckstab, Funky, Ibanek, General Milan, Sir Boss, Quig, and Wilco. And of course, at the top of the list, in Jesters Club Elite, the one, the only Nomad's Reaper. Just one of my biggest fans over the years here. Will pop into the stream from time to time, drop hundreds of subs, thousands of biddies, has gone crazy with it, and we thank him so very much for the generous support. Of course, last but never least, our special thanks. First to Yoda Force, used to be my guildmate back in the day when I was in Vanguard, bought me the mic that I'm speaking to you on right now when it was very early days on this stream, and even though he has long since quit the game, we wish him well from the other side. To Mrs. T, my wife, thank you for all of your work in the background, running interference from our highly inquisitive and destructive 6-year-old, who even now is trying to feed our cat a mozzarella stick. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go deal with that here real soon. And of course, to my co-hosts, I'm Plotting and Scheming here, Dagger, TJ, Sasha, Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, it is a pleasure and a privilege to record this show with you guys on a weekly basis. We're always learning something from each other, and our viewers are definitely picking up things from us. It's the best of all worlds. Wouldn't change a thing. Thank you guys so much. All right, we come back over to the main scene to say... Hey, what? What's that now?
I said we're all waiting for our YouTube checks now that you've hit 1K.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so, yeah, it turns out I have to get the first $100 in ad revenue before they send you anything at all. So I'll let you know. It's going to be a bit. It's started, and I'm really delightful that my YouTube content has just become ad eligible for monetization. So that's the big threshold I crossed the other days. Thanks to Dagger for bringing that up. But yeah, thanks to you guys' support. My YouTube channel did cross over the 1,000 subscriber mark. We met all the other requirements. So I am getting ad revenue now, and it's the start of a new age for the channel. So really looking forward to it, and it's starting off with small amounts here, but it's very early days, and we'll see what it looks like in 6 months or a year. But yes, here's hoping that a year from now we're all doing recording an episode of Plotting and Scheming from a beach that this show has paid for us to be on in some foreign country. Yeah. All right, guys, that's about it. Hope you all are excited, for this last hurrah of Set 16. It has been a wild ride, and let's see what the new week brings to us. Until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.